So for me, stress looks a little bit like broccoli. So the actual stress that's there, the task that you're doing, is the stem. And all these little bubbles up here on the head are the things that I'm adding myself. So I'm like making my life much harder than it needs to be, with loads of little ideas that pop up and it's like, oh, I could do that, that would be nice, like that would make it even better. And part of that is perfectionism, part of that is curiosity, and part of that is like a desired outcome. And that can be in an experiment where I want to get more measurements done, or that can be in a writing project like finishing a chapter, writing a report, or indeed a presentation. So it doesn't matter in which area you are stressed, the stress factors are pretty much the same. So let's divide them into internal and external for a moment. So the external stress factors are obviously people telling you what to do, wanting you to do something, and the internal stress factors are the things that you do yourself. So there are a lot of different expectations around any sort of project, and you have to manage these expectations, your own and the expectations of somebody else. And that starts at any moment in time. Like, you can be 3 days towards the deadline of handing in a report, and you can still make a plan from that day on and start with a blank canvas and say, okay, what have I got, what do I want, what do I need, and how do I get there, and is that still possible? Try not to load too much guilt onto yourself that you haven't done things in the past, because that's done and over. You can't do anything about that anymore. So try and see what can you do now to reduce the stress and to get things finished. I've already mentioned that being a PhD and going through your PhD is growing up as a scientist. That's the episode about asking for help or support. And that is exactly what you're doing in this case as well. So you need to grow into an independent scientist who can make their own decisions. And managing stress and managing expectations means saying no to some things, because you cannot possibly meet everyone's expectations all the time. It is just that saying no to stressors from outside is more difficult for most people, because we have learned that throughout our whole education career that what the teacher says, what the professor says, what the university says is the law, and you can't alter that. And I think that gets a bit weaker throughout your PhD. And I'm not saying here that you can just go wild and ignore all the rules that there are. I'm just saying you need to learn where you can push the boundaries a bit more. The thing is, we always think there's somebody superior to us who has more knowledge or who has the right to stress us and who has the right to demand a certain thing. In a way they do have, but also remember that when you finish the PhD, you will hold one of the highest degrees in education that this country has. So the rank that you will get into when you go into work will be the rank of a leader in some form. So you will lead a team, another person, or only your own project. But you have to manage that. And if you have to do that at some point in your life, and that's like maximum 3 years away, that point's happening, you might as well start now trying to find your way through that and train them how to do that. Because what you need to do then is make responsible decisions. And what is a responsible decision? That's not trying to please everyone. A leader needs to be able to say no to things that are not achievable. So coming back to how to divide up different stress factors, you can divide them obviously in internal and external. You can also divide them into necessary and desirable. And that's quite useful to try and figure out what needs doing. So this is necessary to actually achieve the task, and this is what I would like to do, or what somebody else would like me to do, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world. Coming back to the broccoli, what you need to do is identify what is the main stressor and what are all these bubbles on the head that are maybe not necessary. They are desirable because they make the whole thing look beautiful and taste nice. But maybe you can get away with like half of them, or make them all smaller, or see which ones stress you most and cut those out. And once you know what all these other stress factors are, you can then go and talk to the stressor. And that's either going for a nice long walk and talk to yourself, or that's going to your supervisor and ask for a meeting, or ask for a meeting with a funding body, or whoever is responsible at university, whoever it might be that causes this stress. And then go and say, okay, this is the problem. I don't think I can reach that deadline, and that's exactly because of this part, and this part is somehow too much. Can we break that up? And then you have a very specific thing to talk about, rather than going to someone and saying, I can't do this. And then you don't need to feel like they think you're lazy. Because if you come with your problem and say, okay, so I know this is the absolute minimum that I need to do. I know this is the thing that we would like to have in the end, so this is the outcome, the desirable outcome. This is the gap, and I don't know how to fill that. I don't know how to achieve filling that gap in the time I have. So if you engage in that conversation with whoever, you have a very targeted conversation, and that makes you find out within that what you need to do or what you can do to achieve the best possible outcome in this situation, but without burning yourself out. And that's actually quite satisfying, because as I said, it's the best possible outcome in this situation. Acknowledge that. It's the best thing you can do. It's maybe not what you dreamt of, like it might not be the whole head, but, well, sometimes the whole thing is not possible. Most times, actually, the whole thing is not possible. So in summary, remember, you cannot make everyone absolutely happy. You can try and make everyone equally happy, but there will be things that you need to drop. Second thing is, it is better to make a decision now as to what needs doing and what you will drop, than to just carry on until suddenly the deadline happens and you have to hand in with a half-finished paragraph, or until you are there on the measurement day and mess things up because you don't have enough time and you were just like hoping that you'll get through it somehow. That's the worst possible outcome. That will get better with time, so you need to train this. You will get to know yourself better. You will learn where you can push your boundaries a bit if it's necessary. You will learn what is the maximum possible capacity you have to still stay happy, and you will also see where you went over that boundary. And make sure that you're not always planning to the maximum that you can possibly do, because that's nothing that any person can sustain for a longer amount of time. And when you know all that, you can make decisions much quicker, much easier, and be hopefully less stressed. And these skills will help you so much in the rest of your life as well. It doesn't matter what kind of job you're going to take, you will need it. So take the opportunity to train this now. This is your time, so go for it. Take it on as a challenge. I hope this helps some of you a little bit in the next stressful period, and I hope that this stressful period is not right now. I'll see you again tomorrow, and until then, keep smiling.